Cherokee County Republican Party. We're the ones putting on this forum tonight. To begin our program tonight, I'm going to ask Governor McDonald to go ahead and give our invocation. So if you would, please.
Thank you very much, Rick. Would you bow your heads with me, please? Gracious Heavenly Father, we thank Thee for so many things. We thank Thee for life. We thank Thee for freedom. And we thank Thee for those individuals that are here tonight that are taking and looking forward to taking care of the most precious product that we have on this earth, our children. Father, be with them in their discussion and their deliberations. Be with those here that are here to hear what they have to say. Give a blessing to all of them, and all of this we pray in Jesus' holy name. Amen.
And Bubba's also going to sing for us. Go ahead, Bubba. Oh, yes, you can be seated. Stood.
Love song for America. If tomorrow the things were gone, I'd worked for all my life, and I had to start again with just my children and my wife. I thank my lucky stars to be living here today, 'cause that flag still stands for freedom, and you can't take that away. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died who gave them right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. From the lakes of Minnesota to the hills of Tennessee, across the plains of Texas, from sea to shining sea, from Detroit down to Houston and New York to LA, there's pride in every American heart, and it's time to stand and say, and I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. And I'm proud to be an American, at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA.
Thank you, Governor. Much appreciated. If you would all please stand and join me in doing our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, well, thank you very much. First, a little bit of housekeeping. For those of you that are not familiar with this facility, our bathrooms are outside into the right-hand side of the foyer, behind the stairs, so you'll be able to use the bathrooms there. If you would all also please either turn your cell phones off or go ahead and turn them to vibrate. Thank you very much. Very quickly, we're going to go over the format of the forum. So we're going to give each candidate a 2-minute opening speech. We'll then proceed to the questions that were posed here. And I would have to say, excellent questions. Thank you for the submissions. If a candidate mentions another candidate in their answer, they will get a 30-second rebuttal. Okay? And at the end of this, we'll get a 2-minute closing speech. So if there are any, well, we've got enough questions here to actually cover the forum. So I was going to say, if there's any other additional questions, you can submit those, but we've got quite a few here. So with that, we're going to do our questioning in a rotating manner. But first, we're going to go ahead and give our opening statements. Ashley Bell could not be here tonight, only because he has strep throat. So I'm glad he's not here, because I know I don't need that right now. But we have a representative here of Ashley's, Jason Halliburton, who's going to give a 2-minute speech on his behalf, and then Jason will be leaving the stage, and Ashley will not be participating in the forum tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So good to be here in Cherokee County amongst a lot of family and friends here. I feel like I'm at home again. A little bit about Ashley Bell. Ashley and his wife, Lauren, regret, of course, that they couldn't be here. He's under strict doctor's order the next 48 hours. But Ashley and his wife, for the last decade, have built a successful leadership academy for youth partners to partner with their school systems. Generation Inspiration focuses on turning students that are failing and falling through the cracks and turning them around into graduates and work-ready young adults. His motto of failure is not an option that has resonated with over 1,000 students that have benefited from this program. Ashley is currently a charter school chair of a school where the vast majority of the students qualify for free or reduced lunch. But through public-private partnerships, they are seeing graduation rates rise in the midst of reduced funding. Above all, Ashley is a constitutional conservative. He doesn't believe that the federal government should have any way or say in the way we educate our children. He's a freedom-loving American that believes bigger government means less freedom. That's why, as the youngest commissioner ever elected in Hall County, he personally drafted and passed budgets that shrunk spending and the size of the government by 15%. It wasn't easy, but he built consensus with other leaders to convince them that raising taxes was the lazy way out when revenues were failing. To get public support for his conservative ideas, Ashley helped start the Linear Tea Party to pull together other patriots to fight against tax spending policies. And together they stopped the largest tax increase in the county's history. He has a track record of rolling up his sleeves and getting the job done. As a father of kids in our schools, husband, former commissioner who reduced the size of government, current charter school chair, and founder of an award-winning graduation intervention program, Ashley Bell brings the right combination of leadership and knows how to run this race. Thank you for your time.
All right, next we have Kira Willis.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here tonight. My name is Kira Willis. I think we need to start before we do anything and discuss what the purpose of education is. The purpose of education is to graduate self-sufficient, independent people who contribute to society and who can compete in the American marketplace and in the marketplace in the world. And we need to discuss the 4 different prongs of education and what the superintendent can do. We are working with the governor's vision, the legislative dollars, working with the State Board of Education, and also with local school partnerships. And then we have 3 different ways in which to address what the state school superintendent can do and what I want to do. I want to address the quality basic education funding. It is antiquated. It hasn't been fully funded since 1985, and it's time we look to other states and their funding formulas so that we can look and see different ways to streamline what we're doing here in Georgia. The next thing that I would like to do is ensure as much educational freedom for our students as possible, whether that be charter schools, whether that be blended learning with brick and mortar and virtual, whether it's homeschooling, whatever works for our children and the families of our children is what's best for our children. And we need to remember that and ensure that that is what's going on in Georgia. And then the last is fidelity. We have lots of laws being passed around the state and being passed around the nation, and we need to make sure, A, that we do not go into those laws lightly. We are very clear that those laws are best for our students, and then once we do have those laws passed, that we ensure that they are passed down to our local school boards and our local schools with fidelity. So the purpose of education, the legislative vision and the governor's vision, the legislative dollars, and then we talk about funding, freedom, and then fidelity for our education. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, Pitch Johnson.
Good evening, and thank you so much for coming out tonight. Just a little bit about my background. I have an undergraduate degree from the Citadel, the Military College of South Carolina. I have a master's degree in education, and I have a law degree from the University of Kentucky. I spent 21 years in the U.S. Army as an Army Medical Service Law Officer. I spent 15 years in a family business with my brother and my dad that we started from scratch and built it up to over 1,700 employees. We were in 36 states, 7 foreign countries, and I was the CEO at the time when we sold that business. Currently I'm a partner with my brother in an investment company where we also own a logistics company. So that's a little bit about what I'm doing. I got 3 great kids. They're grown, off the payroll. The last one's hanging in there, off the payroll, that have all went through public schools. I sat on the Marietta City School Council for 4 years. I've been a coach for over 30 years, and I am currently a community coach at Wheeler High School where I coach wrestling and I coach football. And I will tell you, I see these kids over the years, and I've been involved with kids for so long. And at Wheeler High School, those kids look at you, you can see it in their eyes. They want to achieve. They want to do better. And I'm driven by seeing them and wanting to make it right and make it better for them. Every Georgian kid deserves the opportunity for a good quality education. I think with my background and my mix of skills, a little business background and my education background, I feel like I'm eminently qualified to run the Department of Education and work collaboratively with the Governor's Office, our Board of Education, and our General Assembly. Thank you.
Next is Cheryl Dawes.
As he said, my name is Cheryl Dawes, and I just recently got into the race. Like you, probably most of you belong to the Cherokee Republican Party. I want to make sure that a Republican gets elected to this position, so any one of us will do, as long as you vote for that person in November and not a Democrat. But there's more to being a Republican than just voting Republican. I've been involved with the party for about 18 years. I served as a state committee representative for the 6th District, and I was a Gwinnett party chairman. So I think that you don't have to worry about if it's a name only or if I have ever been affiliated with another party. I like to say that my 3 times great-grandfather was a Republican before he was a Whig, so I think I was just born that way. Also, it's one thing to just say you're a PTA member and pay money. It's another to be actively involved. PTA was founded as a lobbying group to work for One Voice, All Children in the state of Georgia, or nationally for that matter. And so I've had the pleasure of going down for 18 years to talk to the House legislators and the Senate, as well as the House and the education committees, and build some nice relationships there and have a pretty good understanding. I must say, though, when I came in to start doing this 18 years ago, the Democrats were in charge. The Republicans are in charge, and I haven't seen us move off of Space 46 or 49 yet. So I would really like to get my teeth into this and see what needs to be done. But federal government is not the answer. I think that in the Republican Party, we like smaller government, we like lower taxes, we like strong family values, and all of these mean local control. I went to school, and some of you in this room, I can tell, went to school before there was a federal Department of Education. And I haven't seen anything go right since they got involved. So consider voting for Cheryl Dawes.
Thank you very much. Next is Alan Porter.
Thank you. My name is Alan Fort. I've been in the business of public education in the state of Georgia for 38 years. I've served all over this state: Southwest Georgia, Southeast Georgia, North Georgia, East Georgia, West Georgia. I have the experience that no other candidate here has about seeing all of Georgia, because remember, this is the state school superintendent of all of Georgia. Somebody that knows where every place is that calls you for your service. I've been a teacher, a coach, an assistant principal, a principal. I worked for the DOE, and now I'm a superintendent in Quitman County Schools in Georgetown, Georgia. And yes, I even drove a bus when I taught school many years ago. It had a clutch in it. Okay? Through the years, I've had the honor as a principal, assistant principal, and superintendent to shake the hands of thousands and thousands of young men and young women who have walked across the stage, graduating from the high schools in the state of Georgia. Fabulous young men and young women who have a great life ahead of them because we have done a good job in the state of Georgia, but we've got a better job to do lying ahead of us, and I feel that's why I'm the most qualified candidate. There are 4 things that we have to do in this state right now. We have to communicate from the Twin Towers across the street to the state capitol, to our governor, General Assembly, Lieutenant Governor, the state board, and make sure things work right there. We have to have our children to graduate with skills when they walk across the stage to get that diploma. We have to make sure that our funding is equitable and we know where it comes from and we know where it's going. And we have to go back to teaching and learning, ladies and gentlemen. When you get inside the room, we've got kids, we've got a teacher, and we've got to simplify teaching and learning to make sure that the kids are being taught and motivated to learn. I look forward to being your next state school superintendent and look forward to the support of everybody in this room, including my foes here tonight. Thank y'all and have a great evening.
Next is Mike Buck.
Thank you very much, and thank you all for hosting this event. My name is Mike Buck, and I want to be your next state school superintendent. I'm really running on a platform of the 3 C's: character, my personal character, and how I've lived my life, but also the character that we have to develop in our young people. I'm running on credentials, and mine will closely mirror what Mr. Ford just had to share. This is my 31st year in education. I've served at every level. I've been an elementary principal, I've been a high school principal, virtually every role in the central office, I've filled that. For the past 3 years, I've had the pleasure of serving at the Georgia Department of Education as the Chief Academic Officer, and lastly, as the Chief of Staff. I believe that one of the best single predictors of future success is past performance, and I welcome people to check my lifelong record of success at every one of those levels. I'm also committed to our young people, to every single young person being successful. I've got 3 school-aged children. They're not off the payroll yet. I know you're looking at this old man and thinking, how does he have school-aged children? That's another story. I adopted twin girls from China. They are now 10. Tomorrow is their gotcha day. That's the day we celebrate like a birthday. They came into my life. Shortly after that, we adopted my son. I live the standards with homework every day. You hear me? Nobody's going to work harder than somebody that's got children in the system. So I walk the walk. I'm also convinced that we have got to be good with our academic standards, but there's a curriculum of life that gets lost in the shuffle. We're going to get held accountable for the standards, and that's okay. We should be. But the curriculum of life, through the boys and girls who have been entrusted to our care, become the kind of people we want living in our neighborhoods, taking care of us when we're older, dating our sons and daughters. We can do things to help that curriculum of life. Thank you very much. I look forward to serving you.
Thank you. Next is Nancy Jester.
Thank you. Good evening. Thanks for coming out. I'm glad to be here tonight. I hope that by the end of the evening you say, I'm supporting Nancy Jester because she's focused on education in the state of Georgia. You're not going to hear any platitudes or cliches or anything like that. Everyone has great intentions, and so do I. But I've got a plan that attacks the structural failures of our state, and we know they exist. How do we know they exist? Because every single state that borders Georgia has a higher graduation rate than Georgia. And every state that borders Georgia spends less per pupil to get that. They are doing so because they have the best practices that push the money into the classroom and away from the bloated bureaucracies. So when you leave here and you think of Nancy, you think about my focus plan. That's my 5 principles, the 5 things I want to get done. Financial accountability and integrity, opportunities and choice. We have an 8-track education system in an iPod world. We've got to modernize. Consequences for failure at the district level. We have to hold bureaucracies accountable and not just focus on accountability for teachers and the testing, but also for the big guys who make the 6-figure salaries. We need to hold them accountable. We need to upgrade our funding formula. You know, the 80s called and they want their funding formula back. We've got to do something about that, and I want to work with the legislature to make that happen. Real per pupil funding that is portable for the choices that children and families are going to make for their education. And then last, strong standards, and that means common sense, not Common Core. We're Republicans. We know that centralization doesn't work, it doesn't innovate. And what I'll encourage you all to do now is, if you want to text me to 22828, text SuperJester to 22828. You'll get a text from me, and you can enter your email and be on my email list and keep in touch with the campaign. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next is Richard Woods.
Okay, thank you. Again, education is personal, and it's personal because it's dealing with your kids. Now tonight, I just briefly want to share in summary, a 4-point plan in which I believe will help bring Georgia where it needs to be educationally. First of all, my first solution is that we need to be child-focused. I mean, the children are, our most valued, entity here. The group that we have, our kids, are important. And because they are important, what we need to do is we need to personalize education and not standardize education. One size fits all does not work. We know that. And so in doing so, what we do, we have to expand our course offerings, our graduation options for our kids, across the board, to give them that opportunity to succeed. Also, in doing so, we must look at our teachers. They're the ones that directly have an impact on our students. They're the ones that work with our students. So we need to give them the adequate time to teach, cut out some of the paperwork, the redundancy of data collecting and testing, so that they can address our kids. Secondly, we need to look at, concentrate on the classroom by giving our kids a solid foundation based on reading, writing, and math by the time they leave, 5th grade, that we will provide them with the foundation needed to succeed in life. Thirdly, common sense over Common Core. One of the things that I look at, and has been part of my platform from day one, we have to make sure that we do not outsource Georgia education. It is not for sale. That is a point that we cannot negotiate with. And lastly, as we look at this, we need to make sure that we are cost effective. As we do so, that means unfunded mandates, we need to stop, because you at the local level are the ones that have to pay for it. And with that, with unfunded mandates, if we can't afford it, we don't need it. And that's simple how I run my business. It's very simple and plain. Also, we need to have a complete audit of the Department of Education. Yes, education is important to you. It is personal, but it is also personal to me. Thank you.
Thank you. And our final introduction is Mary Kay Bacao.
Hi, I'm Dr. Mary Kay Bacao, and the reason why I'm running for state school superintendent is because I did a study of the math standards, and I found that they were 1 to 2 years behind our former standards. I'm a math education professor. I'm also a professor of education in the fields of science and technology. I want to tell you about the Educational Freedom Coalition. This is our little bookmark. And what I am here for is freedom for students. The first thing we need to realize is that the way the system is set up currently, students are not being taught at their instructional level. They're being taught at the instructional level that the state standards say they should be taught at. But if they're above that level, their needs aren't being met. If they're below that level, their needs aren't being met. That's why we have the cheating scandal, because students are not considered. Everyone cannot just be the same. I'm also for freedom for parents. Parents need to be able to have an input in what their kids learn in school. And so right now, parents don't have any voice. I'm for freedom for teachers. Teachers are really being squeezed because sometimes the students don't show a lot of respect for the teachers, and then at the same time you have the administration telling teachers they have to do this certain thing this certain way, and teachers know it's not working with their kids, but they have to do it anyway. Freedom for taxpayers, so they don't have to fund educational initiatives that they don't support, because this is what's happening. Freedom for school board members, because I was on the Fayette County School Board, and I could not make one single decision about curriculum, testing, or standards. And that was just wrong. Freedom for colleges of education and teacher education, we have to do Common Core too. So anywhere I look, Common Core is coming at me, and I'm coming back at it saying we need freedom.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and start our questions. We're going to start with the first person to my immediate left on the first question. On the second question, we'll start with the second person to my immediate left, and so on. So the first question that I have, and we'll go ahead and get this out of the way right away, is what are your thoughts on Common Core? Are you for or against it, and why? Kira?
Thank you. I am for standards. I think standards are important. We have to trust our teachers, but we also have to verify that our children are being taught in an effective manner and that we can hold them accountable for teaching our children. When you talk about standards, you're talking about raising the bottom and pushing the top. And I think you absolutely can do that with those standards. I have school-age children. I have a daughter who's 6. I have a son who's in pre-K. He's in 3-year-old pre-K or 3-year-old pre-K. And I see the standards, and I've seen what happens when we continually change things on our teachers and change things on our schools. And I don't think what we're doing is wise to continue to say we're going to change these standards on our kids. It's ill-advised, and I believe it's irresponsible. But that said, I also think that we can be able to look at these standards and understand why we're doing that, and why is this Common Core thing coming about. When I ran in 2010, I said we need to say no to Race to the Top funding. That's not what we need. We don't need to take federal money, because with federal money comes federal standards. But we also need to understand that Common Core is not a federal mandate. It came from Sonny Perdue. How much time do I have? Came from Sonny Perdue and the Republican Governors Association, and they in turn passed it over to the National Governors Association, who then turned it over to the Association of State School Officers. So it's not something, and this happened years and years ago, and we adopted it in 2010. I don't think that Common Core or the standards that we're teaching our children is something that is horrible. What I think is getting in the way of it is some of the local school boards' choices of curriculum. And you can choose standards and have standards and allow the local school boards to choose the curriculum that goes with those standards that suits the needs and the wants of that local community. Thank you.
Excellent. Vince, can you repeat the question? What are your thoughts on Common Core? Are you for or against it, and why?
I will say from the start that our standards need to be put in place by Georgia educators, our Georgia community, our Georgia General Assembly, and all the folks sitting out here should have the input on our standards here in Georgia. We do not need Washington telling us what we need to put in our standards. I think we're fully capable of setting the standards ourselves. That's right off the bat. Privacy issues, same thing. I think we don't need to have our privacy issues out in the street of our kids. I will also tell you that I'm for local, pushing it down for local control and letting those local boards not set standards, but allow them to be innovative in their systems and as they begin and they educate our kids. So, whether you're for Common Core or against Common Core, I'll tell you one more thing is that I am a military person. And so we move quite frequently from, if you move from Kansas to Wisconsin to Georgia, just want to make sure when you get here that we're in the ballpark. I just want to make sure, hey, I'm not saying we've got to be on the same page, but I want to make sure the standards are rigorous, and I want to make sure that I can have a way to measure that against other states as we matriculate the child through education. So that's kind of where I stand, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Vince. Cheryl?
Right now, Common Core is such a mess, and it's certainly a fire point for this particular race. Even the people that love Common Core aren't happy with it because we didn't do the testing. They felt like maybe we were backing down and didn't want to feel competitive with the rest of the country. It's more like what Fitz said, that they didn't want the national, federalized government taking control of our education. I think, am I still on? Oh, okay, sound like it cut out. Of course we need standards, and we want rigorous standards, but we want local control, and we want to find some version of standards that are palatable to the Georgia voters and the Georgia parents. We really don't need any more testing. Those of you with kids in school know that between the end of course test and they did at least get rid of the graduation test, that the last thing we need is more tests. Sometimes I do ponder if the testing companies might be behind some of these standards, that they're making money sending out the test. I just read that in New York, I think the Pearson company sent the test out already to the New York students, and they haven't even adopted Common Core yet. So I think we have to be careful with these tests that come out. I think that our local superintendents, we vote them in. We vote our school boards in, and they select our superintendents. If we have a problem with them, we can vote the school boards out, and they can get a different superintendent. But you can't go to Washington and vote all of that out. So I would have to say that Common Core is just not going to work in Georgia as it is stated now.
Thank you. Alan, do you need me to repeat the question?
I'm fine. Okay. These standards are what we have now, and they're not going away tomorrow, whether we love them, hate them, or anything in between. So it's what we have to understand is my plan is this, is that every one of these standards, everything is fluid. It is not etched in stone. And my plan is to go to the RESAs, to bring our teachers into local places, all representing every school and every school system in this state, so they can come in and look at what's happening. So they can see what the curriculum is it serving our kids, is it preparing our kids for graduation, is it preparing them for the real world. And as we make changes, as we think things are fine, as we make changes, we can review it every year, because that's what happens to these standards, to make sure that they're up to date and keep up with changes in our society. It is an economic engine, just so students can move from one state to the other, to know, because there's nothing more embarrassing as a high school principal when you have to tell a kid that transfers in, you have to take this extra class because we have it in Georgia and you don't have it in Arizona. It's even worse when our kids transfer from Georgia to another state and they look at you like, what are you learning in Georgia now? So that's important too. It is driven by assessment. Ladies and gentlemen, we can talk all about the standards we want to. The standards are driven by assessment and what we answer to assessment, because once you get the assessing part of it, you have to answer what you've taught to what's assessed. And a lot of times we don't have some control over that we need to get to. And we need to push this control back to a lot of our local systems. Remember, a lot of our local systems are small. They can't afford a curriculum director to review 52 different types of standards for every grade in K-12 and all of the 4 academic classes. So you're talking about a lot of things you have to do, and it is an ever-changing, ever-fluid document that during my administration we will look at continuously in which to improve.
Thank you.
Thank you. You know, I strongly support the standards that we are currently teaching in public schools in Georgia. But at the end of the day, my opinion is not the most important opinion. The opinion of our teachers, and we've surveyed our teachers across this state. Over 11,000 teachers responded. 70 to 75% of our teachers are in favor or strongly in favor of the standards we're teaching. They're not perfect. They're good standards, but they're not perfect. And I am very open to an open, transparent, periodic review of the standards to make sure that we get it right. But you know what? We already do that. We already have a process in place where we put the standards before the public. We allow people to weigh in. Those standards get gone over multiple times as they're developed before they become final. And I'm for that. I want to get it right. I believe we're close. We're not there, but we're going to use the review process and get it from the teachers, those closest to the kids in the classroom. I was fortunate enough to attend the hearing last week where approximately 60 people spoke.